This is my reading of I Will Never Live Near a Navajo Reservation Again that I wrote for the r/slash Tales from the Creep subreddit. I hope you guys enjoy. My wife and I always dreamed of living off-grid on our own land, but we were never able to afford anything, not even a small quarter-acre lot. We were sick of paying rent for shitty houses and apartments that charged way too much, especially for the condition that they were in. I'm talking slumlords. We started wondering if there was anywhere we could actually afford to live. After scouring the internet, my wife, Megan, found 1 acre of land in Laguna, New Mexico for $3,000. That blew my mind. After we bought it, we were so excited that we packed up and moved almost immediately. So my wife, 2 kids, our 2 dogs, and 2 cats, and myself packed everything we owned into a U-Haul and drove 19 hours and 49 minutes to our new home. The first few days were rough, but we started figuring things out. Before moving, we had ordered one of those big sheds that look like tiny houses so that we could convert it into a home. We expected it to be there by the time that we arrived, but Valencia County made things very difficult with permits and zoning laws. Luckily, we had some great neighbors who let us borrow an old motorhome to stay in until our shed arrived. That's when things started happening. See, we had this shower tent set up outside with one of those tankless water heaters that you could hook up a propane tank to. One day, while Megan was taking a shower, she saw something strange. A transparent silhouette of a woman carrying a lamp close to her chest, or at least it looked like one of those old lanterns. She was walking toward her before vanishing right in front of our eyes. We started calling her the Lamp Lady. But later, we found connections to something called the Spider Woman, a figure from Navajo and Pueblo legends. We saw her multiple times after that. She never seemed malevolent, but seeing something like that in the middle of nowhere was terrifying. The second occurrence happened when I wasn't there, but Megan and the kids told me about it afterward. They heard someone outside the camper say in a Hispanic accent, "Hello? Is anybody there?" Megan went outside to check, but nobody was actually there. Even the dogs stayed quiet. At the time, it seemed minor, but it was just the beginning. As soon as the shed arrived, it felt like we pissed something off. It was the middle of winter, snowing outside, and we had no way to heat the shed yet. So we all bundled together to stay warm. In the middle of the night, I heard it. "Daddy, can you come help me?" It sounded exactly like my daughter Emery, but she was lying right behind me. I reached back to make sure that she was there and immediately panicked. "Nobody go outside!" I yelled. I looked at Megan and she was staring at me with a wide-eyed, petrified look on her face. She heard it too. At the time, I worked in Albuquerque at a restaurant called Campo with a Navajo man named Joshua. I told him about everything we'd been experiencing. He explained that some people in the tribe practice black magic, and some would even kill people that they loved most to gain certain abilities. Yes, I'm talking about skinwalkers. Not the internet version where every creepy thing gets labeled a skinwalker. I mean real scary stories people out there genuinely believed in. Joshua gave us cedar stakes and some cedar wood scraps to create a barrier around our property. He told us to burn the scraps and keep the ashes, and place stakes at the 4 corners of our land. He told us to put the ashes in front of our doors and windows, and to even coat bullets in them. See, we learned that these things were kind of like werewolves. They were weak to certain things, like silver, iron, and cedar ash. But he told us that he had blessed the stakes, or had them blessed. I can't really remember. But they were special for some reason. So I placed them at the four corners of our land. And after that, seemed like things started to calm down. One night while Emery was in the outhouse, she saw a dark figure standing near the fence by the road. She said it had to be at least 10 feet tall. Then she watched it drop down to all fours and run off into the darkness. After that, things like that started happening regularly. Dogs with unnaturally long legs, black shadow figures, disembodied voices, things that looked like animals but seemed way too weird to be an actual animal. Eventually we started brushing it off because it happened so often, but it never actually happened on our property. Normally it happened like off our property. Seemed like the barrier that Joshua gave us was actually working. But then something happened that put me on edge again. By then I had started working at Texas Roadhouse. One day, a young Navajo guy I worked with told me he knew who I was. Creepy, right? My grandma's been watching you guys ever since you put that shed up. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up instantly. Watching us? Why? I asked. Oh, you just piqued the interest of some of my family. You live off 6, right? I hesitated before answering. Why did he know where I lived, and why was his grandma paying so much attention to us? His whole family, it seems like. Yeah, Highland Meadows. You don't have to worry about us, he said. But some people around the reservation practice witchcraft, so be careful. I stared at him without blinking. Like skinwalkers? He nodded. Not everyone likes white people out here. You could be seen as unwelcome. I told him about the cedar barrier and he smiled. That was probably a mistake. That's good. As long as you stay inside and don't go outside at night, you should be fine. Not long after that, we found our dog Sweetie Belle in the field. No wounds, no broken bones, just blood coming out of her mouth. Some people said somebody could have given her antifreeze, but our dogs never really left the property. And when I say we lived in the middle of nowhere, I'm talking our neighbors were like miles away. We were pretty secluded. A couple days later, my daughter's dog Charlie died the same way. I had to carry his lifeless corpse back home while my daughter was screaming in agony and tears just poured from my face like a waterfall. That was the last straw. I had done something that I regret that night. I called it out. I was screaming into the darkness, "Come and get me, motherfucker." Pretty stupid, right? I wasn't really thinking. I was just clouded by my own anger and grief. We loved Sweetie Belle and Charlie so much. They were really, really good dogs. I went back to work intending to ask the guy about it, but he quit a few days earlier. I never saw him again. That seemed a little suspicious to me. One day while walking on the property, I discovered one of the cedar stakes had been broken. I freaked out and I immediately went to Home Depot, Lowe's, anywhere I could possibly find a cedar stake. Ended up getting some and forming it into a stake and replacing the one that was broken. I guess not just any cedar would do. I remember Joshua said that he actually had the stakes blessed that surrounded our property. That night, our door handles started turning while we were sleeping. I grabbed the gun and I pointed it at the door until sunrise. I didn't sleep much any of those days. Another night, after work, we usually stayed in town while I worked because we didn't want to be out there after dark alone. We came back to find the shed door standing wide open. After that, we stopped going outside at night completely. We would hear whistling and disembodied voices surrounding the shed after dark. Then I saw it. At first, I thought I was dreaming. I mean, years had gone by with me thinking this was just a dream. A humanoid snake with needles for teeth. I'm talking an entire row of pointy needles sticking out of its mouth was staring through the window, drooling as it watched me. Years later, I finally brought it up to Megan. She stared at me without blinking. She said she saw the same thing. Then I turned around to find my daughter also staring at me without blinking. So did Emery. Eventually, we left New Mexico and moved back to Alabama. That was the last encounter that we had with this thing. We think that it genuinely had the intention of ending our lives. Especially since we had a brand new baby in the house. We heard a disembodied voice saying, "Oh, what a beautiful baby." That was it. We were done. We moved back to Alabama, but I'll tell you this right now. I will never live near a Navajo reservation ever again. Thank you for listening to this story, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it. Share this and tag Hunter and Isaiah in it. I don't even care if they read it on Creepcast. I just want them to read it and see what they think. If there's any notes that you guys have, go ahead and let me know. I'm going to tell you right now, this actually happened. This is something that actually me and my family had endured while living in New Mexico in Laguna, right in between Albuquerque and Grants. It was really, really spooky, and a lot of this stuff is very traumatizing to talk about. So please, please, please give me your thoughts. Be respectful, though. Thank you for watching.